Hi YouTube, welcome to Pagan Perspective. This is Megan, aka Sabiri Sri. Today is Friday and I'm your host. So today we're talking to Charlie, who wrote a question about living in a pretty Christian area and not being out of the broom closet, and how to deal with the negativity that comes with people who just are not tolerant and my guess is pretty uneducated about paganism too. And also just, I guess, sometimes mean. I mean, reality is that sometimes people are mean and, and beyond mean. I think that there are times in which, the worst of humanity comes out when you're different than the norm, and that can be really tough. So I'm going to do my best to answer this question. It's also about our personal experience. So I thought that I would do a little bit of sort of recapping, some of the things I went through when I was younger, because this was definitely wasn't the easiest thing. So as I mentioned, I'm a hereditary. So I've always been my faith. Now, for probably a very long time, I would say, I probably didn't talk about it too much until maybe middle school. I would say in elementary school, I definitely talked about it, but it wasn't something that I even really had the language for, it was just sort of what was done, and it didn't really occur to me that other people did things that differently. So, because my family still celebrated secular holidays, so that was something that, we still had Thanksgiving, which, stuff like that. So, and because, we still had a lot of traditions that were very similar to other people. We have a solstice tree, just because ornaments are amazing and my mother's obsessed with them. so we always have a tree, which is a very, it's a pagan tradition. And we always got, for a star, we always got, baskets and candy and things like that. So I think that, because I got things like that, I didn't really feel that different in elementary school. So, but when I really started to notice things being different, we're in middle school. And pretty early on, we're talking sixth grade here. I get teased a little bit in fifth grade, but not bad. Mostly what I got teased about in fifth grade, which is when the teasing, I would say, really started the worst. There's a little bit in fourth, but, oh no, there was some in fourth. Yeah, I get teased mostly in fourth and fifth for being loud and outspoken, and being fat. So that was where I got teased for. And then middle school is when the fat thing stayed and the outspoken thing stayed. I was really, really teased for being fat, bullied, physically bullied. And I was bullied for my religion in middle school. And it didn't let up. I was bullied all through high school as well. I would say my senior year, though, it got a little bit better. It chilled out a little bit. Mostly, though, I think it was just because by that point, if they've said it to you, they've already, it's like anything that they could already say to you, they've already said to you. And so it's just sort of old hat at that point. And most of the seniors are teasing the freshmen, and the freshmen aren't in enough of your classes and they don't see you enough to tease you. You know what I mean? Sorry, my battery cut out there. So, the high schoolers, you're just not, that seniors, you're just not around the freshmen enough to, really tease them at all. So one of the things that was really difficult for me, I was in a very conservative area, and, a lot of kind of Christian conservatives as well, and that made it difficult. So, I dealt with a lot of misconceptions. And so I'm guessing that that's something that you're probably also coming up against. I get asked all the time, why do you worship Satan? And I think that's one of the hardest ones for me, because they make the assumption before they've even like asked the question. So it's not like they assume that you already worship Satan, and then they just ask why. Like, why do you worship Satan? And it's such a, I hate that question, because it's like, well, first off, I can't answer you because there is no why, because I don't worship Satan, and that's really tough, trying to figure out this whole kind of prevailing myth there is in Christianity that pagans are worshiping the Christian devil, right? And they believe that, or many of them believe that some of us, like, that we don't know that we're doing this. So I think that's where it really got insidious to me, because I got told that, well, I know you mean well. I know you think you're worshiping a god and a goddess, but you're really worshiping the devil, and you need to accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry. That's not what I believe. And you're wrong. And we're just going to have to agree to disagree and chill out. Because it really got to a point that it was unhealthy. I was bullied, physically bullied, hurt quite a few times. So it got bad. I've been lucky, though, in that it's not my family. When you have your family as a support, that is huge. As a therapist, I work with people who are of varying different minorities, right? Religious minorities, sexual minorities, gender minorities, all of that. And the coming out process can be very, very difficult, especially when you have family and parents who are unsportive. And in some ways, it almost makes it impossible in some ways, unless you're willing to give up that relationship. And that in and of itself makes me so sad I want to cry. Because you should never, ever have to choose between being who you are and celebrating that and your family. You just shouldn't have to choose, and it's so horrible. So the reality, though, is that sometimes you have to, if you want to be who you are, and that's only a choice that you can make. I mean, that's the really important thing. You have to decide for yourself what you can live with. And today, that answer might be one thing. Maybe even this hour, it might be one thing, and an hour from now, it's different. So just because you make that decision in one moment doesn't mean that that's the decision that has to stay or is permanent. So just keep that in mind, is that, change is the only constant. And so right now, in this moment, you might not be ready to come out of the broom closet. You might not be ready in a month. You might not be ready in a year. Or you could be ready tomorrow. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And recognizing that in and of yourself, that it's okay to change your mind. It's okay to want to preserve those familial relationships, and that it doesn't make you any less of what you are or who you are if you choose not to say anything to keep that relationship. Coming out is a personal decision. Whatever you are coming out for, sexual orientation, gender, religion, all of it. It's a personal decision that only you can have the right time and place for, and in your heart. And it's okay to put something ahead of that. There's nothing wrong with that as long as you're okay with it. Now, if you do choose to come out of the broom closet and some family members are not accepting of it, at that point, then what a lot of the other hosts are saying, then there's that choice on who you want to surround yourself with, right? You always have the choice of living with that negativity, right? You always do. I mean, I know that I have to deal with family members who are, big, conservative Republicans. And that's difficult, because that's not me. And and when I say that, I mean, I know plenty who would be supportive of my wife. However, there are some who aren't, and that sucks. That really just sucks. And so I choose who I want to surround myself in my life with, and then for the other ones that I want them in my life, I just might not agree with everything that they think and they feel. So I keep them kind of, they're still family, but they're not my inner circle. They're not that close, trusted, special place. And I only talked with them about certain things, right? So I have to kind of keep a running list of okay topics to talk to them about. And as far as friends, friends are one of those things, they're chosen family, right? And the pain when your chosen family disappoint you, that's really tough because you chose them, you brought them in. You weren't born into that family. You created that family. And when they disappoint you, that can be so sad. And I feel for you. My wife had a recent incident with a friend of hers, and in our marriage, and she wouldn't come to the wedding, and and she just believes that my wife is basically going to hell and going to be judged because she's living a sinful life. And yet this person still wants to be friends. This person is still reaching out, sent a birthday card, still wants to be friends, even though my wife is like, hell no. Like, this isn't okay. Like, you can't just say that and then try to act like everything is okay when it's not, and so the conversation has to happen, and the steps need to be taken to say, look, if you feel this way, if you feel that this is wrong, then I can't have you as part of my life until you feel differently, and that's a really hard conversation to have with somebody, and you might not be at that place, and maybe it's not something you ever want to do. It is just an option. And the other thing I would say is to find new family, find new friends, right? To make into a family and reach out, find community, because honestly, community make all the difference in the world. Having friends and having people around you who support you and love you for who you are, all of who you are, there's nothing that can replace that in the world. It's the best feeling in the world to know you are fully supported 100%, who you are, all of your cracks and crevices and ups and downs and all of it. And to have somebody care for you and be there for you through all of that, it's one of the greatest feelings there is. And I just wish that for you so wholeheartedly. And I just, the position you're in is not easy. And, going up against ignorance and misinformation, if you can educate and they're willing to learn, then, oh my goodness, woohoo! It would be amazing if they were willing to learn. I've come across a few people who are, uneducated about paganism and who actually want to learn. And it's wonderful and it's so great. So if they want to learn, then awesome. That's fabulous. Not all do, though. And unfortunately, sometimes we can't force anybody into it as much as we want to. We can't. What we can do, though, is we can make sure that, as much as possible, we guard ourselves and we protect ourselves from their intolerance. And that can mean different things, depending, like I've said, the different levels. And, you've got to go with where your heart is. And I wish you all the luck in the world. And And just know you have a community here, and I hope that you could find community elsewhere. But it's difficult, and I feel for you, and I wish you so much luck, and sending you so many good thoughts. So that's it for today, guys. As always, blessed be and aloha.